My high school classmate was put through hell right in front of us, but somehow nobody saw it. My senior year, a classmate returned from the coach's office disheveled. Our beloved teacher had assaulted her. He threatened her scholarship if she talked. Daily, she withdrew more, skipping practice, losing weight. She told her friend she was pregnant but wouldn't name the father. The coach caught them talking, dragged her away, warning her friend to forget everything. He demanded photos as insurance, threatening her future. When confronted later, she denied everything out of fear. During the pep rally, she collapsed, convulsing and bleeding. Doctors found she'd taken pills from the coach, who demanded the problem disappear before championships. Her parents learned everything at the hospital. For months, she'd claimed she was dating a college guy, too scared to tell the truth. The investigation exposed the coach. At trial, she detailed the abuse. When he interrupted her testimony, the judge threatened removal. Looking at him, she said, "If you were monster enough to do this, be man enough to hear what you did, as everyone sees who you are." He got 18 years. The family received $3.5 million. 6 other students came forward with similar stories spanning a decade. Most disturbing, he'd been Teacher of the Year 3 times. The school had ignored previous complaints, calling accusers attention seekers. They knew all along but protected their winning coach instead of students.
Parents, when have you embarrassed your child? My 17-year-old daughter, Emma, got her first job at the local coffee shop last month. She was so proud, constantly talking about being independent and mature, finally making her own money like a real adult. For weeks, she'd been coming home with stories about her cool coworkers, especially this guy Tyler she obviously had a massive crush on. She'd spend an hour getting ready for each shift, practicing her casual laugh in the mirror, and asking me if her uniform looked okay. Last Tuesday, I decided to surprise her by stopping by during her shift to grab my usual latte, and maybe embarrass her just a tiny bit. What I didn't know was that she'd been telling all her coworkers her mom was this super successful businesswoman who travels constantly for work. Apparently, she'd made up this whole elaborate story about how I was rarely home because I was always flying to important meetings in different cities. She even said I drove a BMW, wore designer suits every day, and had my own corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. I walked in wearing my rattiest gray sweatpants with a mysterious stain on the knee, fuzzy house slippers that were literally falling apart at the seams, and an old t-shirt with dried baby food on it from babysitting my nephew that morning. My hair was in the messiest bun imaginable, held together with what might have been a rubber band from yesterday's newspaper. Emma saw me through the window and her face went completely white, like she'd seen a ghost. Her cute coworker Tyler was standing right there at the register as I loudly announced, "Hi, sweetie. Mommy needs her caffeine fix before she falls asleep standing up." But it gets so much worse. I'd completely forgotten my wallet at home, so I started digging through my oversized mom purse looking for loose change. Pulling out expired grocery store coupons, half-eaten fruit snacks, random McDonald's toys, old receipts, and a broken hair tie while counting quarters on the counter like some kind of desperate person. Tyler, who was probably feeling bad for this complete disaster of a woman, offered to cover my $3 latte. That's when I spotted Emma behind the espresso machine and got genuinely excited. "Emma, oh, perfect timing. Can you make mommy's usual? You know how I like it. Extra foam, extra hot, with that little heart design you practiced at home in our kitchen." I said it loud enough for the entire cafe to hear. Every single customer turned to stare at this unfolding drama. Her manager, this hipster guy with a man bun and thick-rimmed glasses, looked completely confused and asked, "Wait, Emma, you actually know this customer personally?" Emma just stood there completely frozen as I cheerfully explained that I was her mother and how incredibly proud I was of her getting her first real job. I even pulled out my phone to show Tyler the baby pictures I still had as my wallpaper. Look how cute she was. This is from her first day of kindergarten when she cried for an hour. And this one's from when she lost her front tooth and looked like a little vampire. Tyler was trying so hard not to laugh, while Emma looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Her manager kept glancing between us like he was trying to solve some kind of puzzle. Then I made it infinitely worse by asking if they had an employee discount for family members, and whether Emma had been telling them about my famous lasagna recipe that always burns on the bottom. The whole cafe was watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Emma finally managed to make my drink with shaking hands, probably hoping I'd just take it and leave quietly. Instead, I loudly thanked Tyler for being so sweet to cover my drink, told Emma I'd pick her up after her shift in my minivan, and announced to everyone that they should tip her well because she was saving for college. As I was leaving, I spotted a bulletin board and got another brilliant idea. I walked back over and loudly asked if I could post Emma's senior pictures on it so everyone could see how beautiful she was. She was homecoming princess, and she plays clarinet in the school band. So talented. Emma was making frantic hand gestures behind the counter trying to get me to stop, but I was on a roll now. Later that night, she texted me, "Mom, I told everyone you were a CEO who wore Prada suits and drove a BMW. You showed up looking like you hadn't slept in a week, called yourself mommy, and tried to put my senior pictures on their community board." Apparently, Tyler still brings it up during every shift, asking if mommy is coming by today to share more embarrassing stories. Emma now makes me text her before I go anywhere near her workplace, and she's seriously considering transferring to a different location across town.
Dads, when did you look at your son and think, "That's my boy"? My 16-year-old son Dylan hasn't talked much since the divorce. 3 years of one-word answers and closed doors. He lived with his mom until 6 months ago when she took that job in Phoenix. Now it's just us in this too-quiet house, both pretending we know how to do this. Last month I lost my job at the warehouse. 32 guys let go in one afternoon. I was sitting at the kitchen table with bills spread out, doing math that wouldn't work, when Dylan walked in, saw my face, didn't say anything, just grabbed a Coke from the fridge and left. That night I heard him on the phone, voice low, something about need to figure it out. That weekend I noticed my lawnmower was missing from the garage, figured it was stolen. One more thing going wrong. I was about to call the cops when my neighbor Jeff texted me, "Your kid's out here cutting Mrs. Patel's lawn in 95-degree heat." I drove over. Mrs. Patel's the 78-year-old widow whose son died in Afghanistan. Her yard's huge, corner lot with that massive oak tree that drops a million leaves. There was Dylan, completely soaked in sweat, pushing my old Toro through her thick grass. No headphones, no phone, just working, methodically, row after precise row. His t-shirt was dark with sweat, but his face had this focused look I hadn't seen since he used to pitch Little League. I parked across the street and watched. When he finished, Mrs. Patel came out with a glass of water in that Dallas Cowboys cup her her late husband always used. Dylan took it, said something that made her laugh, then refused the money she tried to give him. They argued briefly before he finally took what looked like half of what she'd offered. As he loaded the mower in her shed, I noticed 4 other lawns on her street had been freshly cut. The Rodriguez place with the twins, old man Collins's house, the young couple with a new baby. I followed him to the West Side apartments where he mowed 2 more yards, then to the Miller's house where their disabled son waved excitedly from the window while Dylan trimmed their hedges. At the Kennedys, their daughter, who I'm pretty sure Dylan had a crush on last year, brought him Gatorade. He barely looked at her, just nodded thanks, and kept working. By 7 p.m., he'd done 8 yards. When he finally dragged himself home, his hands had blisters, his sneakers were stained green, and he smelled like a compost heap. He went straight to the shower without a word. That night, I found $240 cash tucked under my laptop with a note for the electric bill. There's more coming Friday. I confronted him after his shower. Why didn't you tell me you were mowing lawns all over town? He shrugged, that same blank teenage face, water still dripping from his hair. Your resume was in the trash. You've been staring at bills every night. I figured one of us needed to do something. I asked how many lawns he'd cut that day. 8. He hesitated, then added, I've got 12 regular customers now. The Hendersons pay extra for their flower beds, and Mrs. Patel won't let me do hers for free, so we compromise. He started to walk away, then turned back. Dad, I put us on the list too. I'm doing our yard on Sundays. For free, obviously. The smallest hint of a smile, first one I'd seen in months. That night I heard him setting 3 alarms on his phone for 6 a.m. on a summer Sunday. Before bed, I checked his room to see if he needed anything. He was already asleep, face down, completely exhausted. On his desk was a notebook with names, addresses, and a mowing schedule. Notes about who needed what. Miller, trim hedges. Collins, edge sidewalk. Patel, leaves. Under his bed was a pair of work gloves he'd bought himself. Next to them, a business card. Dylan's Lawn Care. Reliable, professional, affordable. He'd used the school printer to make them. The next morning, I got up at 5:30, made him breakfast, filled a cooler with ice and Gatorade. When his alarm went off, I was already standing in the garage next to my old truck, keys in hand. What are you doing? He asked, rubbing sleep from his eyes. I figured you could use a driver today, and maybe some help with the Hendersons' flower beds. For the first time in years, I slept through till morning.